When you look at the form and function of this device, the best way to describe it is perhaps small and mighty. Welcome to my review of the MIAP Pro, and for me its most outstanding feature, it's Xbox compatible. And at 190 grams, well, it won't weigh you down. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to the Sim Hanger. My name is Mark. The product is designed and distributed by Axair, and as always, all links in the notes below the video. Discount code details later in the video. This controller is designed from the ground up to take control of all aspects of your autopilot, common nav radios, transponder, ADF, and a whole lot more, featuring 13 buttons and 8 rotary dials. But in essence, it's a versatile and configurable button box. Looking at the unit, there could be some mounting options, but it's light enough to be stuck just about anywhere. Along the top, there's your mode switch there, which switches between PC and Xbox, USB-C connector, but note no cable is supplied with the unit, as well as a reset button which the developer suggests you leave alone, but it'll simply restart your unit. Note the rotary dials are buttons and not axes. As soon as you plug the unit in, you can see that the display is backlit, a very nice touch. Buttons and dials have a nice feel to them, with some haptic feedback, and as you switch from one mode to another, so the colors will change, making it easy to know at a glance what functions are active. To switch between PC and Xbox mode is fairly straightforward. The red light on top there indicates it's in Xbox mode, and using a small pin like you would use for a mobile phone to get the SIM card out, you can change it, and PC mode is blue. Despite its size, the unit is well made. The controls on the front include the X1 and X2 buttons, which in effect are shift keys, allowing you to expand the range of possible configurations. And in this review, we're going to focus on Xbox. Via the unit's manual, it recommends a number of configurations for the various dials and buttons, as well as step-by-step guides on how to set them up for the Xbox and PC. And the way you set them up is quite different. The PC version is configurable just like any other device with switches and buttons, but for Xbox compatibility it functions differently, and to all intents and purposes it acts as a keyboard. And we'll be having a look at that in some detail later on in the video. If using it on the PC, please note there is no predefined configuration. The MIAP Pro is identified as a separate device, but the default config is empty. Following the manual, you'd have to key in all the different configurations. On the Xbox, note it's not identified separately. That is because it forms part of your default keyboard. With the MIAP Pro attached, in Xbox mode, I'm going to go ahead and press the Autopilot key on the MIAP itself, and we'll see that it registers under the default keyboard. Default keyboard setting is Z or Zulu. Toggle Autopilot Master. We can ignore the other configs shown. They're only shown because they contain the letter Z or Z. Axair offer a range of different products, MIAP Pro being the latest offering. As mentioned earlier, links in the notes below. When using the MIAP with the Xbox, note some of the configurations are already there and pre-configured, but not all. So once again, some of these are going to have to be keyed in. For both PC and Xbox users, this is a pain. It will take you 60 to 90 minutes, but on the positive side, this is likely to be something you'll only do once. For the benefit you get, it'll be worth the hassle. When starting to configure on the Xbox, I don't suggest that you change configurations within the default keyboard. It won't let you anyway. You can't override a default setting, so the best and safest way is to simply make a new profile copying the default setting and then make the changes on that. With the keyboard on default, head towards the preset manager, select the duplicate option, give it a name, anything you like. I'm going to call mine MIAP Pro. You could, of course, if you wanted to, have more than just one profile. My keyboard is now on the MIAP Pro profile, and the easiest way to explain the configurations and requirements is to actually do some with you. We've already seen the Autopilot Master is already pre-configured, so we don't have to worry about that one. So we'll use another button as an example. And the MIAP Pro takes extensive use of modifiers. Let me explain. And we're going to be looking at the Nav1 Hold GPS Nav1. And the best way to figure out whether or not something's configured is let's search by input, then using a short press, a single press, of the button shows us that that's already configured for Autopilot nav1 hold, which is N plus left control on the keyboard. But this button has two functions. If we press the button and hold it down for 2 seconds or so, note it's displaying a different key combination. Short press, one function, long press, a different function. And the long press should be GPS or nav1 swap, but nothing's configured. I'm going to type in GPS. I'm looking for toggle GPS drives nav1, so I can now go ahead and configure this to the MIAP Pro. Start scanning, and remembering to do a long press just to hold it down for 1 or 2 seconds. Key combination comes up and we can validate. And that function should now be allocated to that key on the MIAP Pro. After making changes, always save, and we can now jump into our cockpit and see if in fact it's worked. We can see here on the PFD, GPS is active. I'm just going to do a short press, which was the nav1 hold if you recall. We can see it's already enabled the flight director. Now a long press, and I now switch to localizer or VOR1. Long press again and I switch back to GPS and so on. So that's working exactly as intended. So there we had a situation where one function was already configured and the secondary configuration was not. And we've just gone ahead and configured it using a single button with a short and long press option for 2 different functions. Let's take a quick look at a rotary dial. I've selected the heading rotary and turned it to the right, and we can see it's already pre-configured. The other config shown we don't have to worry about as it's a different key combination, so no conflict. If it was the same, we'd have to delete it. Let's now do the same and turn the rotary dial to the left. That should be decrease heading bug, which it is. Good. So that's already pre-configured. So we can move our heading bug, but can we set heading mode? Press the rotary dial in as it acts as a button as well. There's a key combo there, but nothing is allocated to that function. There's also a button below the heading rotary. Give that a press, and once again we can see nothing is allocated to that button. I think I'll use that button, and I need to set heading mode. So within the configurator, I'm going to search for Autopilot, and I'm looking for toggle Autopilot heading hold. There it is. So we can go ahead and configure that. Click in the box, start scanning, and I'm going to press the button below the heading rotary. The button registers. All good here. We can now validate, and the heading mode should now work. Once that's done, and as mentioned previously, always a good idea to apply and save after every change. And we can head back to the cockpit and give it a try. Now in our PFD we'll be expecting heading to appear. Autopilot on first. Now go ahead and press the heading key, and heading is indicating as expected right here. So once you get the hang of it, the configuration is fairly straightforward, and as mentioned there are step-by-step guides with illustrations to show you what and how to configure. To make things easier, there's a few aspects to the MIAP Pro that are unique I need to explain. For ease of understanding, note under the frequency rotary, it has megahertz and kilohertz. Pressing the dial changes one to the other. The active one is lit, and this is used to change both COM and NAV frequency, megahertz whole numbers, kilohertz fractions, or numbers after the decimal. You can also switch between COM and NAV by simply pressing the button, and whichever one is lit up, COM or NAV is the active. There is also ADF and transponder rotaries. Once again, it's using modifiers. Press the dial in, so on the transponder, the 4 will change thousands, the 3 will change hundreds, the 2 will change tens, and the 1 will change ones, allowing you to dial in your transponder and or your ADF as required. So I've now gone ahead and configured the MIAP Pro to the default settings, as per their manual. Let's see how it works. First of all, let's put the flight director on, and we can see the magenta arrow there come up. Now Autopilot, that's on. We can see it here. Using the button below the heading rotary, let's set the heading mode now. And once again, that should reflect on the PDF, which it does. Now I'm going to turn the heading rotary, and we should see the heading bug change and move, which it is. There is a nominal amount of latency, not enough to be distracting, but it is there. So that's working fine. Let's now go ahead and change the altitude within the Autopilot. I'm going to do that by selecting the altitude rotary. I'll rotate it to the right to increase the altitude. It's currently 900 and you can see it going up. So that's all working fine. Let's now adjust the vertical speed by hitting the VS button. We see the small box has appeared next to the altitude, and rotating the dial to the left will reduce, and rotating to the right will increase the vertical speed, which is exactly as it should operate. You'll note next to the altitude rotary on the left hand side is baro. As part of the configuration, by pressing in the Alt button, we'll automatically set the barometer to standard. Pressed it now, and yep, that's worked fine as well. Let's now test our COM and nav to ensure we can change frequencies. It's currently set to COM and set to megahertz, so it's whole numbers. By rotating the dial, we should see the whole numbers change here. So let's do that, and we can see the whole numbers are changing. If we then press the dial in and change to kilohertz, as you can see, the numbers behind the decimal are now changing. Press the swap button to make that frequency active. Now change to nav mode, and we're going to do exactly the same. Going to switch from kilohertz to megahertz, so I change the whole numbers. Rotate the dial, whole numbers are changing. Press the dial down to change it to kilohertz, and the small numbers are changing. And once again, using the swap button, I can change the active frequency. Well, I'm sure you've got the gist of it now. We'll do one more, and that's transponder. And we can see the transponder is currently set to 5547. And 4, which means thousands, is lit on the unit itself. As I rotate the dial, so I'm able to change the numbers. Press it, I can change hundreds. Press it again, I'm changing tens. Press it again, and I can change the ones. Transponder is now 0772. With the ADF, we can do the same. Let me just bring up the ADF on the PFD. There it is. Currently reading 0961. ADF button is currently on 3, so hundreds. Rotate the dial, and I can change. Press the dial in, and I change to tens. Press the dial in again, I change to ones. Well, the one other thing we need to check is the VOR course needle. Let's go ahead and check that. Long press of the button to change from GPS to VOR, as demonstrated previously, and now rotating the VOR rotary, I should be able to move the course needle so that we could align for an ILS or something of that nature, or remain on track for a VOR, and that's working exactly as intended. Well, that's more than enough configuration for now. Of course, these configurations for the MIAP Pro are only recommendations. You could make them anything you wanted them to be. And especially for you Xbox pilots out there, it gives you access to a versatile button box that'll allow you to configure away to your heart's content, limited only by what configurations are available within the key bindings, of which there's something in the region of about 1,500. Axair presenting a competitively priced, workable solution for both PC and Xbox users. But also earlier in the video I mentioned a discount. Please note there is a 10% discount on all of their products, time limited to the month of September 2024, using the promo code as shown, SimHanger. Please note that Axair provided the unit to me at no charge for review purposes, but I am not linked or affiliated to Axair in any way. Well, that's it, everybody. Thank you as always for joining me. I hope you found it useful and informative. Stay well, look after yourselves. I'll see you all again very soon. And ciao for now.